I was dying slowly, growing weaker with each passing day, and the one person I trusted was systematically poisoning me. When the doctor showed me the test results, my world turned upside down. My blood contained 10 times the amount of sedatives it should have. My name is Sandra Wilson, and I thought I knew what betrayal was. I was wrong. It all began last summer when I was diagnosed with chronic arthritis and complications. At 72, I'd always been a strong woman, running the family farm in Iowa for 40 years after my husband's death. 400 acres of the best land in Polk County, a house built by my grandfather, and a steady income from leasing fields to local farmers. Life was predictable and calm. But the illness changed everything. At first, it was just joint pain in the mornings. I chalked it up to age and the weather. Then the pain became constant, especially in my hands and knees. Dr. Miller, my family physician for 20 years, prescribed methotrexate and prednisone, standard treatment for my condition. "Sandra, you need to be very careful with these medications," he warned during our first consultation. "Follow the dosage strictly. Methotrexate in particular is a serious drug. Too much can be toxic." I nodded, jotting everything down in my old notebook. Back then, I didn't know how prophetic those words would become. For the first few months, I managed on my own. It was tough, especially with the farm, but I was used to hardship. My daughter-in-law, Lisa, my only son Michael's wife, would stop by occasionally to check on me. She was always peculiar, too smiley, too caring, too interested in my finances. Lisa had married Michael 5 years ago. He was an engineer she was a bank manager. A beautiful couple, as the townsfolk said, but something about her always put me on edge. Maybe it was the way she looked at my house, like she already owned it, or how often she brought up how hard it must be for me to manage such a large property. "Sandra, you know you're not getting any younger," she'd say, pouring tea in my own kitchen. "Have you thought about moving somewhere smaller? I know a wonderful retirement home in town." I always gave the same reply, "Lisa, dear, I'll die in this house where I was born, and not a day sooner." She'd flash that tight smile of hers and change the subject. Everything changed in October when I got really sick. The pain worsened, I started losing my balance, and I often felt nauseous and dizzy. I fell a few times in the house, once so badly I couldn't get up for an hour. That's when Lisa offered her help. "Sandra, this can't go on," she said when Michael brought her over after another fall. "You could seriously hurt yourself. Let me help with your medications. I deal with medical records at the bank. I know how important it is to stick to a schedule." Michael backed her up. "Moms, Lisa's right. You need help. We can't keep worrying something will happen when you're alone." I resisted. I'd been independent my whole life, making my own decisions, taking care of myself. But the next morning, when I found myself on the kitchen floor with no memory of how I got there, I knew I needed help. Fine, I relented, but just with the medications and only temporarily. Lisa beamed too brightly, I realize now. She started coming every morning and evening, bringing my pills in little containers, already portioned out. She made sure I took them on time, cooked light dinners, cleaned the house. The perfect daughter-in-law, as the neighbors said. "You see how Lisa takes care of your mom," they'd ask Michael in town. "Such a devoted girl, you're lucky." Michael was proud of his wife, and I started feeling worse. At first, I thought it was the natural progression of my illness. Dr. Miller had warned that arthritis could worsen, but by November, I had symptoms I'd never had before: constant drowsiness, memory issues, trouble focusing. Sometimes I forgot what day it was or whether I'd eaten breakfast. "It's just side effects from the methotrexate," Lisa would explain when I complained. "The doctor said it's normal, you just need more rest." So I rested. I slept 12 hours a day but still felt drained. The world became foggy, unreal. Even simple decisions, what to cook for lunch or what show to watch, felt impossibly hard. That's when Lisa first brought up selling the farm. It was a gray, snowy evening in December. She sat by my armchair, holding a mug of hot cocoa she'd made for me. "Sandra, I've been thinking about your situation," she began in a soft, sympathetic tone. "The farm is such a huge responsibility. In your condition, maybe it's time to consider selling." I tried to protest, but my words came out slow, slurred. "Lisa, this is family land." I know how hard it is to even think about," she interrupted, "but let's be realistic. You can barely walk, you keep falling, you forget your medications without my help. What happens if I have to leave, or if Michael gets transferred to another city? The thought terrified me. Over the past months, I'd become completely dependent on her. Without her, I felt lost, helpless. Do you know how much your land is worth now? Lisa went on. I did some preliminary calculations at the bank. With its proximity to and the county's development plans, about $4.5 million, maybe more. The number stunned me. I knew land prices were rising, but not that much. Imagine, she said, her voice dreamy. You could buy a beautiful apartment in the city, close to good doctors and hospitals. No more worrying about maintaining this huge house or what happens if the heat or power goes out in winter. The rest of the money would ensure a comfortable retirement. I tried to think, but my thoughts were muddled. It all sounded reasonable, logical, yet something inside me resisted. I'm not ready to make that decision now, I said finally. Of course, Lisa agreed quickly. Just think about it, we have time. But as it turned out, time was running out. By January, my condition had deteriorated so much that I could only spend a few hours out of bed each day. Lisa now came 3 times a day, morning, noon, and evening. She took over the house completely, paying bills. I'd given her access to my bank account, buying groceries, and of course, managing my medications. You look so unwell, Sandra, she'd say, bringing my next dose of pills. Maybe we should increase the dosage. I read that with arthritis, treatment sometimes needs adjusting. I trusted her. In my condition, I had no choice. Michael visited once a week, usually on Sundays. He saw me weakening and it scared him. Mom, maybe you should check into a hospital, he suggested once. Get a full workup. No, Lisa answered before I could open my mouth. I mean, of course, if Sandra wants to, but Dr. Miller said this is a normal reaction to the treatment. Besides, hospitals are full of infections. In her condition, that could be dangerous. Michael nodded. He trusted his wife. And I kept getting worse. By February, I was barely getting out of bed. The world around me was blurry, unreal. Days blended into a gray haze. I ate little, but Lisa didn't push. She said loss of appetite was another side effect of the medications. That's when she brought up selling the farm again. Sandra, we need to have a serious talk, she said, sitting on the edge of my bed. Your condition isn't improving. I'm scared something serious could happen. I tried to focus on her, but even that took effort. I think it's time to make a decision about the farm, she continued. Not for the money, but for your peace of mind. You can't live here alone anymore, that's obvious. And we can't always take care of you. Michael has his career, I have my job. But I don't want, I began, my voice weak. I know how hard this is, she interrupted, but face reality. You need constant care, maybe a specialized facility. That's expensive. Selling the farm would ensure you get the best care. In my foggy mind, it sounded reasonable. I was so weak, so tired of fighting the illness. I have a potential buyer, Lisa added casually. A construction company that wants to build a luxury housing complex here. They're offering $4,700,000. It's a great price. Even in my state, something felt off. Too fast, too convenient. How did they know the farm might be for sale? I asked. Lisa hesitated for a split second. Well, I made some preliminary inquiries just to know the market value, in case you decided to sell. When? A few months ago. Sandra, you know I'm only doing this because I care about you. I wanted to ask more, but my head was spinning, and I felt so tired I could barely keep my eyes open. Think about it, Lisa said, tucking me in, but not for too long. Offers like this don't last forever. That night I barely slept. Something gnawed at me, a vague sense that something was deeply wrong, but I couldn't pinpoint what. My thoughts were scattered, slipping away every time I tried to grasp them. The next morning, Lisa came with news. The buyers want to close the deal as soon as possible, she said, handing me my morning pills. They're willing to add another $50,000 for a quick signing, but we need to decide by the end of the week. So soon, I tried to protest, but my voice sounded weak even to me. Sandra, in your condition, every day you delay is a risk. What if you get worse? What if you can't make decisions at all? The thought horrified me. Losing not just my health but my ability to control my own life. I've already prepared the documents, Lisa continued. All they need is your signature. Michael thinks it's the right decision too. Michael knows. Of course, we talked about it last night. He's so worried about you. He says your health and safety come first. I closed my eyes, my head pounded, thoughts scattered. Maybe they were right. Maybe I really couldn't make sound decisions anymore. Fine, I whispered, but I want to talk to a lawyer. Lisa's face tightened for a moment. Of course, if you insist, but old Mr. retired and other lawyers in town are swamped. It could take weeks. Then it takes weeks. Sandra, her voice carried a hint of irritation she quickly masked. You know time is against us. The buyers might change their minds or find another property. I felt her pressure, but I couldn't fight back. Every word was a struggle, every thought an effort. Let me think until tomorrow, I pleaded. Lisa sighed, fine, but remember, tomorrow might be too late. That night changed everything, not because I made a big decision, but because something happened that made me question everything. Around 3 a.m, I woke up desperately thirsty. It happened often lately, a side effect of the medications, Lisa had said. I reached for the glass of water on my nightstand, but it was empty. I had to get up and go to the kitchen. A trip I used to make with my eyes closed now felt endless. I clung to the walls, pausing often to catch my breath. When I finally reached the kitchen, I accidentally knocked over the box of my medications Lisa left on the table. It fell, spilling pills across the floor. As I bent to pick them up, I noticed something odd. Some of the pills looked different. My methotrexate was always yellow, these were white, and the shape was wrong, round instead of oval. I turned on the light and examined them closer. The white pills had an inscription I couldn't read without my glasses. I went back to my bedroom to get them. When I finally read the inscription, my heart sank. Lorazepam 2. I knew that name. Lorazepam was a strong sedative prescribed to my late sister when she developed dementia. It made her sleepy, confused, forgetful. The exact symptoms I'd been experiencing. With trembling hands, I sorted through the other pills. Besides my usual medications, there were more unfamiliar ones. One I recognized, diazepam, another powerful sedative. Suddenly, everything fell into a horrifying picture. My constant drowsiness, confusion, memory issues, they weren't side effects of my arthritis drugs. They were the effects of drugs I wasn't supposed to take. Lisa was spiking my medications with sedatives. But why? The answer hit me immediately, so obvious I was shocked I hadn't seen it sooner. The farm, $4,700,000, and me, in a state where I could barely make decisions, was the perfect target to coerce into selling. I sat on a kitchen chair, still holding the white pills. My hands shook not just from weakness, but from rage. The woman I trusted, who cared for me, who I considered family, was systematically poisoning me. But what could I do? Who would believe me? Michael adored his wife. The neighbors saw her as a saint, and I was a sick old woman with memory problems that everyone knew could be signs of dementia. If I accused Lisa without proof, it would look like the paranoia of a sick mind. I needed evidence, real, undeniable evidence. I decided not to take the morning pills Lisa would bring, but I had to do it without her suspecting. The next morning, she arrived as usual at 8 with breakfast, oatmeal with berries, and a plastic container of my morning medications. "How are you feeling, Sandra?" she asked with her usual caring tone. Now that I knew the truth, that care felt repulsive, but I forced myself to speak in my usual weak voice. "A bit better, slept well." "Wonderful, take your pills before breakfast gets cold." She handed me a glass of water and the container. I took the pills, but when she turned to the stove, quickly hid them under my pillow. "Done," I said, showing her the empty container. Lisa smiled and started cleaning the kitchen. I forced myself to eat the oatmeal, though my stomach churned with disgust. I had to act normal. After she left, I examined the hidden pills. Besides lorazepam and diazepam, there was another drug, haloperidol. I remembered that name from stories about my aunt's nursing home. They used haloperidol for dementia patients to make them more compliant. That cocktail of drugs explained all my symptoms, but I needed more proof. That day, I felt better than I had in months. My head was clearer, my movements steadier. I managed to get up and walk to my old safe in the study, where I kept important documents. There, I found the contract for the farm sale Lisa had prepared. Reading it, I felt growing anger. The buyer was listed as Prairie Development LLC. I'd never heard of that company in our county. But the most interesting part was the section on commissions. The selling agent was Lisa Wilson. Her commission was 5% of the sale price, $235,000. Now the motive was crystal clear. But it still wasn't enough. I needed medical proof that I was being poisoned. When Lisa came that evening with dinner and more pills, I pretended to take them again. This time I had to be extra careful. She watched me closely. "Sandra, have you thought about our talk?" she asked, sitting in the chair by my bed. "Yes," I replied, keeping my voice weak. "I think maybe you're right, maybe it's time." Her face lit up. "I'm so glad you're being reasonable. It's really the best option. But I want a lawyer to review the documents." "Sandra," she sighed, "we talked about this. Lawyers are busy and time." "Then I'll wait," I said firmly. I saw a flash of anger in her eyes, but she quickly controlled it. "Fine, but not too long, and let's make sure you're taking your medications regularly. I noticed you've been forgetting lately." "Forgetting?" "Yesterday morning, the pills were on the floor. You must drop the box." So she noticed. I had to be more careful. The next day, I took a risk. After Lisa left after lunch, I called a taxi and went to a clinic in the next town. I didn't want to see Dr. Miller. He might call Michael or Lisa and tip them off. At the clinic, I asked to see any available doctor and said I wanted blood tests. Doctor, a young woman in her mid-30s, listened carefully. "Mrs. Wilson, what specific tests do you want?" "I want to check for substances in my blood that shouldn't be there," I said bluntly. She raised an eyebrow. "You suspect poisoning?" "Possibly." Doctor asked more questions, and I told her about my symptoms without mentioning Lisa. I just said I suspected improper treatment. "We can do a toxicology screen," she agreed, "but results take a few days." "How many?" 3 to 4 for a standard test. If we're checking specific substances, it could take a week. I didn't have a week. The contract Lisa prepared gave me 2 days to decide. "Is there a way to speed it up?" "For an extra fee, we can do an express test. Results by tomorrow evening." I agreed to pay for the express test. When I got home, Lisa was already there with my evening pills. "Where were you, Sandra?" she asked, suspicion in her voice. "I came at the usual time and you were gone." "I went for some fresh air," I lied, felt a bit better and decided to walk around the property. She studied me. "Alone, that's dangerous in your condition. You could fallen." "Nothing happened." "Next time, let me know." I was worried. That night, I skipped the pills again, and the next day my head was even clearer. I even managed to call an old family friend, Jim Roberts, a lawyer, in. "Sandra, how you been? Haven't heard from you in ages," he greeted warmly. "Jim, I need your help, urgently." I told him about the contract, not mentioning the poisoning yet. I didn't have proof. "Can you come tonight, review the documents?" "Of course, I'll be there by 7. But when Lisa arrived at 6, I knew I was in trouble. "Sandra, I have great news," she said with a wide smile. "The buyers agreed to raise their offer to $5 million, but only if we sign tonight." "Tonight?" "I know it's fast, but opportunities like this don't wait. Michael's on his way. He'll be here in an hour. We can have a little family signing ceremony." My stomach churned. They were planning to make me sign before I got the test results or showed the documents to a lawyer. "Lisa, I'm not ready." "Sandra, please," her voice turned pleading. "This is your chance for a comfortable retirement. $5 million, think of what you could do." Just then, the doorbell rang. Jim Roberts had arrived early. Lisa's face went pale. "You're expecting someone." "It's the lawyer. I asked him to review the contract." What lawyer? I thought we agreed to wait. But I was already heading to the door. Jim Roberts was a man in his 60s with gray hair and sharp eyes. He sized up the situation instantly, seeing Lisa's flustered expression. "Good evening, Mrs. Wilson," he said politely to her. "You're Sandra's daughter-in-law." "Yes, we weren't expecting," Lisa stammered. "Jim, thanks for coming," I said. "Lisa just brought the contract for the farm sale." Jim took the documents and started reading. The longer he read, the darker his expression became. "Sandra, can I speak with you privately?" he asked finally. "No," Lisa blurted out too quickly. I think family should discuss such important decisions together. Besides, my husband will be here soon." "Mrs. Wilson," Jim said coolly, "I'm Sandra's lawyer, not yours. She's entitled to a confidential consultation." Lisa tried to object, but Jim was already leading me to the study, closing the door behind us. "Sandra, this contract is completely unacceptable," he said without preamble. "The price is at least $1 million below market value. The agent's commission is triple the norm, and some clauses are outright predatory. Who drafted this?" "Lisa, does she have a law degree?" "No, she works at a bank." Jim shook his head. "Sandra, I've known you for 40 years. You're one of the most sensible women I know. Why are you even considering this deal?" I took a deep breath. It was time to tell the truth. "Jim, I think I'm being poisoned." He stared at me, stunned. "What?" I told him everything about the fake pills, my symptoms, how Lisa pressured me to sell the farm. I showed him the pills I'd hidden. "Do you have proof?" he asked. "I got blood tests. Results should be ready tomorrow." "Good. Until then, don't sign anything, and don't take any pills from her." Just then we heard voices outside. Michael had arrived. "Mom," he called, entering the house. "Lisa says you're finally ready to sell the farm. I'm so glad." Jim and I stepped out of the study. Michael hugged me, and I saw genuine relief in his eyes. He truly thought this was the best solution for me. "Michael," I began, "I haven't made a final decision yet." "But Mom," Lisa said. "Lisa says a lot," Jim interjected. "Michael, this contract needs serious revisions. Someone's trying to take advantage of your mother." "What do you mean?" Michael looked at Lisa, who stood pale by the door. Jim started explaining the issues with the contract. With every word, Michael's face grew more confused. "Lisa, is this true?" he asked his wife. "You're getting a commission on the sale." It's standard practice," she stammered. 5% isn't standard," Jim said coldly. "Standard realtor commissions are 2 to 3%, and the seller is usually informed up front." Michael stared at his wife in disbelief. "Lisa, explain." "I was trying to help," she began, her voice trembling. Just then, my phone rang. It was the clinic. "Mrs. Wilson, this is Doctor. Your test results are ready." "And?" "I'm afraid it's not good news. Your blood contains significant levels of lorazepam, diazepam, and haloperidol. The concentrations are 10 times higher than therapeutic doses. This is very dangerous." My hands shook. "Doctor, those drugs weren't prescribed to me." "Then this is a case of poisoning. You need to go to a hospital and contact the police immediately." I hung up. Everyone in the room was staring at me. "What did the doctor say?" Michael asked. I looked straight at Lisa. "My blood contains narcotic drugs I was never prescribed, in lethal doses." The room fell deathly silent. Lisa opened and closed her mouth like a fish out of water. "Mom, you're taking drugs?" Michael asked, stunned. "No, son, someone been slipping them into my medications for months." I pulled the lorazepam pills from my pocket, the ones I'd hidden the night before. "Here's the proof. Lisa gave me these instead of my arthritis medication." Michael took the pills and read the inscription. Then he slowly turned to his wife. "Lisa, it's not what you think," she cried. "I never meant to hurt her." "Then explain what this is." Lisa collapsed into a chair, sobbing. We have debts, Michael, huge debts. My mother's sick, her treatment costs a fortune, and the bank's threatening to fire me. So you decided to poison my mother. Not poison, I added a little sedative to make her more agreeable, to convince her to sell. The farm's too big for her anyway. A little sedative. Jim looked at the test results I handed him. You gave her doses that could kill a horse. I didn't know, I'm not a doctor. I just wanted her to be calmer. Michael stared at his wife in horror. Lisa, do you realize what you've done? You could killed my mother. But I didn't mean to. I love Sandra like my own mother. What kind of love is that? I said, my voice dripping with disgust. You systematically poisoned me to steal my farm. Not steal, sell for a good price. For a lowball price and with a predatory commission for yourself. Lisa realized she was cornered. Her sobbing turned hysterical. Michael, please, we're drowning in debt. My mother's dying and I can't help her. Sandra's farm was our only chance. Our chance, Michael exploded. It's Mom's farm, not ours. But when she dies, it'll go to you, and that means to me too. The silence that followed was deafening. Even Lisa seemed to realize she'd said too much. You wanted me to die, I said quietly. No, I never, You gave me drugs that could killed me and planned to get the farm through my son. Michael recoiled from his wife like she was diseased. Lisa, no, tell me it's not true. But Lisa couldn't deny it anymore. The truth hung in the air like a suffocating gas. I'm calling the police, Jim said, pulling out his phone. No, please, Lisa fell to her knees before me. Sandra, please, no police. I'll give everything back. I'll never come near you again. Don't ruin my life. You already ruined your life, Lisa, I said, when you decided my death was worth money. Jim got through to the police. Yes, I need to report an attempted murder by poisoning. The police arrived 20 minutes later. 2 officers, Sergeant Davis, an older man with kind eyes, and his younger partner, Officer. Lisa was still on the floor, sobbing. Michael stood by the window, turned away from her. I told the officers the whole story from the beginning. Do you have evidence? Sergeant Davis asked. I showed them the fake pills, the blood test results, and the farm sale contract. These are serious allegations, Davis said to Lisa. What do you have to say for yourself? I didn't mean to hurt her, she mumbled through tears. I just wanted to help the family. Help the family by giving a lethal dose of narcotics to an elderly woman. I didn't know the doses were that high. Officer studied the contract. In this, a 5% commission without the property owner's consent, that's fraud. Mrs. Wilson, Sergeant Davis addressed me. Do you want to file a formal complaint? I looked at Lisa, then at my son. Michael looked broken. In one evening, his world had collapsed. He'd learned his wife tried to kill his mother for money. Yes, I said firmly, I want to file a complaint. Lisa burst into tears again. Sandra, please, think of Michael. This will ruin his career, his life. You should thought of that before you decided to poison me. The officers arrested Lisa. As they read her rights, Sergeant Davis explained she faced charges of attempted murder, fraud, and falsifying medications. After the police took Lisa away, the house fell silent. Michael still stood by the window. Son, I called to him. He turned to me, tears in his eyes. Mom, I'm so sorry. I should realize something was wrong. I should protected you. You're not to blame, Michael. She fooled us both. But I saw you getting worse and didn't suspect. She was very convincing, and we both loved her. Jim gathered his papers. Sandra, tomorrow I'll file a lawsuit for damages, medical expenses, emotional distress, attempted fraud. Lisa will owe you a hefty sum. What about the farm? Forget that deal. The contract's invalid. By the way, I checked Prairie Development. It was registered 3 months ago. Sole founder, Lisa Wilson. So there were no buyers. Lisa planned to buy the farm herself at a low price, then resell it to real developers for full value. How clever she was, Michael said bitterly, and how despicable. The next day, news of the arrest spread through town. Neighbors came to apologize. They'd all praised Lisa's devotion, only to learn she was slowly killing me. "Sandra, we feel so guilty," said Mrs. Parker from the neighboring farm. "We saw you weakening and thought Lisa was an angel. Turns out she was a devil." Dr. Miller visited that day to check on me. "Sandra, I can't believe this happened," he said, taking my pulse. "How did I miss the poisoning?" "You couldn't have known. The symptoms matched the side effects of my real medications. But the concentration of those drugs in your blood, it's a miracle you survived. A few more weeks of that treatment, and it would have been too late." I shuddered, thinking how close I'd come to death. "How long will it take to fully clear my system?" "With those doses, a few weeks, maybe a month, but you'll feel much better in a few days." He was right. Each day I felt my strength, clarity, and energy return. By the end of the week, I could work in the garden, cook my own meals, drive my car. I was becoming myself again. Michael visited daily. He filed for divorce right after Lisa's arrest. "I can't forgive what she did to you," he said, "and I can't live with someone capable of that." "I'm sorry, son." "Don't be sorry for me, Mom. Better to know the truth late than never." 2 weeks later, Lisa's preliminary hearing took place. Jim accompanied me to court. Lisa sat beside her public defender, looking gaunt and older than her 32 years. The prosecutor read the charges: attempted first-degree murder, fraud, document forgery, illegal distribution of medications. "Your Honor," Lisa's lawyer said, "my client is willing to plead guilty to lesser charges in exchange for a reduced sentence." "Which charges?" the judge asked. "Unintentional harm and fraud." The prosecutor objected. "Your Honor, the evidence clearly shows intent. The defendant systematically poisoned the victim for months to coerce her into an unfavorable deal. This is attempted murder." The judge reviewed the documents. "Mrs. Wilson," he addressed Lisa, "do you understand the severity of the charges against you?" "Yes, Your Honor," she whispered. "Do you wish to change your plea?" Lisa looked at me across the courtroom. Her eyes pleaded. "Your Honor, I never meant to kill Sandra. I just wanted her to be calmer. By giving her doses 10 times higher than safe. I'm not a doctor, I didn't know. But you knew you were giving her unprescribed drugs. You knew you hid it from doctors. You knew you planned to profit from her weakened state." Lisa didn't respond. The judge set the main trial for a month later. After the hearing, I lingered in the courthouse corridor as Lisa was led out in handcuffs. She saw me and stopped. "Sandra," she said, "I know you hate me. I understand why. But believe me, I never wanted you to die. But you wanted me helpless, unable to make decisions, so you could steal my farm." "Not steal." "Lisa, enough. You created a fake company. You lowballed the price. You gave yourself a predatory commission. If that's not theft, what is?" She lowered her head. We had so much debt." "That's no excuse for attempted murder." "But I wasn't trying to kill you. You gave me drugs that could killed me. You didn't consult doctors when you saw me getting worse. You rushed the contract because you knew time was against you. If I died of natural causes after signing, you'd have gotten your commission and a share of the inheritance through Michael." Lisa sobbed. "I'm not as evil as you think." "Maybe not, but you were capable of something I thought was impossible." The guards led her away. That evening I sat on my porch, feeling truly at home for the first time in months. Clear head, steady hands, calm heart. I was alive and free. Michael came over with dinner. "How'd it go in court?" he asked. Lisa tried to plea bargain. It didn't work. "Good, she needs to answer for everything." We ate in silence, watching the sunset over the fields. Then Michael asked, "Mom, what are you going to do with the farm now?" "What do you mean?" "Well, you're not going to sell it, are you?" I thought for a moment. "You know, Michael, maybe I am." He looked at me, surprised. "Not because anyone's forcing me," I continued. and not for the ridiculous price Lisa offered, but because maybe it's time for a change. You're serious? I'm thinking about it. The farm's too big for a woman my age, and after everything that happened, there are too many bad memories here. Where would you go? Maybe to the city, buy a small house near you. Garden, read, travel. I have grandkids in California I've only seen a couple of times. Michael smiled, the first real smile in weeks. That'd be great, Mom. But if I sell, it'll be for a fair price. Jim already found real buyers, a development company from Chicago. They're offering $6,200,000. That's $1.5 million more than Lisa's offer. See what a loss she was setting me up for? Lisa's trial took place in early April. By then, I'd fully recovered and felt better than I had before the illness. It turned out some of my arthritis symptoms were also from the poisoning. Jim represented me as the victim. The case was airtight: medical evidence, witness testimonies, documented fraud. Lisa's lawyer tried to portray her as a desperate woman who just wanted to help her family but went too far. The prosecutor painted the true picture: a cold-blooded scheme to enrich herself by slowly killing a trusting elderly woman. During the trial, even more shocking details emerged. Lisa had started planning the scheme 6 months after marrying Michael. She researched local property prices, consulted lawyers about guardianship over an incapacitated person, and even bought medical books on drugs for the elderly. This wasn't an impulsive act of desperation, the prosecutor said in his closing statement. This was a meticulously planned scheme to profit from the slow murder of a vulnerable woman. The hardest moment was giving my testimony. I spoke about months of torment, how I gradually lost my ability to think clearly, the fear that I was losing my mind. The worst part wasn't the physical symptoms, I said, standing before the court. My voice was steady, though I trembled inside from the memories. The worst was the betrayal. I thought of Lisa as a daughter. I trusted her with my life, and she used that trust to slowly kill me for money. The courtroom was packed. Neighbors, friends, reporters from local papers all listened, holding their breath. Lisa sat with her head down, avoiding my gaze. I'm not here for pity, I continued. I'm here to tell the truth. Lisa didn't just poison my body, she poisoned my trust in people. But I won't let her take my life. I survived, and I'm here to seek justice. When I finished, the room was silent. Even the judge, a stern older man, looked moved. The prosecutor called witnesses: Doctor, who confirmed the test results, Dr. Miller, who admitted his mistake in missing the poisoning, and Jim Roberts, who detailed the fraudulent farm sale scheme. Michael's testimony was the hardest for me. I loved my wife, he said, staring at the floor. I trusted her. I thought she was caring for my mother out of love. Learning the truth made me feel as betrayed as Mom. I lost my wife, but worse, I nearly lost my mother. Lisa didn't look at him. She cried, but I saw no remorse in her tears, only fear of punishment. The trial lasted 3 days. The jury returned a verdict, guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced Lisa to 15 years for attempted first-degree murder, with an additional 5 years for fraud and document forgery. She was also barred from contacting me or Michael after her release. As she was led from the courtroom, she turned to me one last time. "Sandra, I'm sorry," she said softly. I didn't respond. Forgiveness wasn't something I could give her, not when her actions nearly took my life. After the trial, life began to settle. I sold the farm to the Chicago Development Company for $6,200,000. It was a fair deal, handled through Jim, who ensured everything was above board. The money gave me a freedom I'd never dreamed of. I bought a small, cozy house a few blocks from Michael's apartment. It was single-story, with a little garden where I started growing roses and herbs. For the first time in years, I could focus on myself, not on managing a sprawling farm. Michael visited almost daily. The divorce from Lisa was tough, but he got through it. He started dating a new woman, a kind, genuine schoolteacher. Seeing him slowly come back to life warmed my heart. I also began traveling. My first trip was to California, where I spent 2 weeks with my grandkids. Their laughter, their energy, it was like medicine that fully healed me. I realized life went on, and I still had so much ahead of me. One evening, sitting on my new porch with a cup of tea, I reflected on what I'd been through. Lisa stole months of my life, but she couldn't take my strength. I endured because I refused to let fear and weakness win. and I knew, despite everything, I could still trust people: Michael, Jim, Doctor, the neighbors who supported me after the trial. The farm, my grandfather's house, was now becoming a housing complex. Sometimes I drove by, watching the cranes and workers. It was a strange feeling, seeing the place where I'd lived my whole life transform, but I didn't regret selling. It was my choice on my terms. That evening, when Michael stopped by for dinner, he asked, "Mom, do you ever think about Lisa?" I looked at his tired but calm face. Sometimes, but not with hatred, more with regret. She could have been part of our family if she'd chosen a different path. "Have you forgiven her?" I thought about it, not quite, but I don't let her live in my head anymore. She took enough. Michael nodded. "You're stronger than me, Mom." "No, son, I just learned to let go." A year after the trial, I was in my garden pruning roses. The sun was setting, painting the sky gold and pink. My phone buzzed, an email from Jim. He said Lisa had filed an appeal, but her chances were slim. The evidence was too strong. I put the phone down and breathed in the scent of blooming roses. Lisa was in the past. She made her choice and I made mine. I chose to live, not just survive, but live fully, surrounded by family, friends, and new possibilities. That evening, I wrote a letter to my grandkids in California, inviting them to spend the summer with me. I wanted to teach them to bake pies like my grandmother did and tell them stories about the farm that used to be my home. I wanted them to know life wasn't just about hardship, but about resilience, love, and hope. And when I went to bed that night, for the first time in a long time, I felt at peace with myself and the world. I was Sandra Wilson, a woman who survived betrayal and came out stronger. And this was my story, not one of revenge, but of triumph. What did you think of this story? Share your thoughts in the comments. Let us know where you're reading from. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more gripping stories. See you soon.